Hi guys, it's Agnes and today I come with a turtleneck sweater. It's a sweater dress, but you can make it, in any length that you want. It is easy, simple. I used the simplest stitches for this sweater. So before we get into the video, I wanted to say thank you so much for the 18,000 of you that have subscribed to my channel. I appreciate each one of you very much. For those who share my videos to your Facebook groups, for those who watch the adverts on my video so that YouTube can pay me a little something, like that's support on a personal level, and I really appreciate each and every one of you. So if you haven't subscribed, smash that red button and join the family. Yeah, so thank you so much guys. So let's get into the video and make this sweater. You're going to need a 6.0 millimeter hook for this project. You will need a yarn needle, scissors, tape measure, and of course yarn. I used chunky yarn. This is 100% acrylic, a brand Robin, a Kenyan brand, and I used 6 packs in total for this. This is 100 grams, so the total was 600 grams. Okay, so to start we are going to make a foundation chain, and this runs from the shoulder to down at the bottom of the sweater. Okay, so make a slip knot and make a chain. Make a chain as long as you want your sweater to be. So we'll work in panels. We'll do the front panel and the back panel. So this is the foundation chain. Make it as long as you wish your sweater to be. So I chained 79 chains. This is how long I want my sweater to be from the shoulder up to the bottom, and this is 27 inches long. So my sweater is going to be 27 inches long. Okay, so we are going to work on row 1 right from the bottom. This is where the ribbing is, at the bottom of the sweater. So our first row, we are going to skip that very first chain and go into the second chain and make a slip stitch. Okay, so we are working on the ribbing first. So go into the second chain and make another slip stitch like that. Go into the next and make another slip stitch like that. You're going to make slip stitches until you have a total of 12 slip stitches. Okay. Okay, so now we have a total of 12 slip stitches, and we're now going to work on the part just above the ribbing, from the ribbing to the shoulder part. So for this part, we're going to use single crochets. So that's a single crochet, that's the 13th stitch. Go into the 14th stitch and make a single crochet. Sorry, go into the next chain. Go into the next chain and make a single crochet, and you are going to make single crochets from here until you get to the end of your chain. Okay, so it's single crochet, it's slip stitch at the beginning and then single crochets all the way to the end, and I'll see you once you're done. So I'm done with all the single crochets, and this is how it looks. We had the slip stitches at the beginning and the single crochets later. So now we are going to row 2, and so you're going to chain 2 because you're now going to use a different stitch. Turn your work, yarn over, and we are going to work only in the back loops. Okay, only in the back loops. Normally we would work, in the front, both loops, but this is now only the back loop, not the 2 loops, but the back loop. So in that very first back loop, you're going to make a half double crochet. Okay, so go into the next back loop and make another half double crochet, and go into the next back loop and make a half double crochet. So this is how we're going to do the pattern for both the front panel and the back panel. It is going to be a repetition of the single crochet row, and then a half double crochet row. Single crochet row, then a half double crochet row. That is going to be the repeat. So the first row was a single crochet row, now this is a half double crochet row. Okay, so you are going to put half double crochets in every back loop stitch until you get to where we had our slip stitches, and I'll see you once you get there. So I'm done with my half double crochets, and now we have where we had our slip stitches. So we're still going to work in the back loop only, but this time round it is a single crochet. Okay, so the first row was a slip stitch, but now on this row we do single crochets in every back loop. That's for the ribbing part. So at the end of it all, we're going to have 12 single crochets. Okay, so put a single crochet in every back loop, and I'll meet you, once you're done with the 12. So that was my last one, and now on row 3 you're going to chain 1. So we are going now upwards, and now the next row will be slip stitches. So go into that very first back loop and make a slip stitch. Go into the next one and make a slip stitch. So it's going to be a repeat like that. So once you're going up, it is slip stitches, and once you're coming down, it is single crochets. That's for the ribbing part. Okay, so we are now going upwards, and that is the slip stitches. Okay, so now we are done with our 12 slip stitches, and now next we are going to do single crochets. Okay, so it is going to be single crochets in every stitch until you get to the top. Okay, so that's how the pattern is. Where you do slip stitches, you now continue with the body part using the single crochets, and once you're coming down, you come down with half double crochets, and then for the ribbing part, that will be the single crochets. So that is how it looks. Okay, so I'm coming to the end of row 3, and that will be my last stitch of the single crochet. Okay, that's where my last stitch is. Now you chain 2, turn your work, and now we're going to go down with half double crochets. So yarn over, and in that very first stitch you are going to insert a half double crochet, go into the next stitch and make a half double crochet, and like that you are going to go down. This is from the shoulder going downwards to where we have our ribbing, and that will be a row of half double crochets. Okay, so continue to insert half double crochets for this 4th row, and I'll meet you once you are where we do our ribbing, just at the bottom where we start our ribbing. I'll see you there. So I'm done with my half double crochets, and I go to where we have ribbing. So now I'm going to go down with single crochets. So when you come from up downwards with double crochets, then the ribbing part you do the single crochets. Once you're done with the 12 single crochets, you chain 1 and then go up with the slip stitches, and once you're done with your 12 slip stitches, then you do the single crochets. real quick. So you take your hips measurements, divide by 2. Mine were 35, divide by 2, that's 17, sorry. So that middle part there where we have our taco neck, that's 5 inches long, okay? So if my front panel is 17 inches wide, so that means minus 5, that is 12. So that means that this other part and that other part will be 6 inches each. Okay, 6 inches here, 5 here, and then 6 inches here, and that makes a total of 17 inches. So you're going to take your hips measurements, divide by 2 what you have, subtract 5. That 5 we are subtracting for this part here, the taco neck part. And whatever you remain with, divide it into 2 so that you know how much inches you'll have on this end and how much inches you'll have on this end. Like I said, mine were 35, divided by 2, that's 17. So 17 minus 5 is 12. So I knew I had 12 divided by 2 is 6. So I knew I had 6 to make 6 on this side, then 5 on this side, and then 6 on this side. And then it gives me a total of 17 inches. I hope you got it. Okay, repeat that until you have your first part of the inches. Mine is 6 inches. That is how it looks like. I did a total of 14 rows. And when you measure this, it comes to the 6 inches. So now we're going to work on the taco neck part, which I told you was 5 inches. Okay, so this is 6 inches. The taco neck is 5 inches, and then the other side after the taco neck will also be 6 inches. So these are 14 rows, and now we work on the taco neck part. So it will depend on how your hips measurements were and how many inches you'll have on this first part. Okay, so for this part is you'll simply continue with the same pattern. So now my next pattern is going to be a row of single crochets, of slip stitches, and then that's for the ribbing area, and then the other top part will be for the single crochets. Okay, so for this taco neck part, we are going to leave 5 stitches at the top. So you're going to count from your top 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and leave those out. Okay, so when you come up with your single crochets, make sure you have 5 left at the top. Don't work on those, and I'll meet you once you're right there. Okay. So I've come to the end of my 15th row, and those are my 5 stitches I left up there. So we will not work on those ones. Okay, so that's okay. Now 2, 3, 4, 5. We have 5. So now we're going to work on the 16th row. That's if you're doing the same size as me. Chain 2, turn your work, and yeah, insert a half double crochet. So we are simply going to repeat the same pattern, on that now it is 5 stitches shorter, and this is where we'll attach our taco neck once we are done. The taco neck measurements, the 5 inches is universal, as in that's what you'll use for every size. So all of you are going to leave 5 inches in the middle. So I'll meet you once you're done. So I did a total of 11 rows, and that's my 11th row, and I'm coming to the end of that very last row, which is a single crochet row. So this is an equivalent, these 11 rows are an equivalent of 5 inches that we're meant to leave in between. Okay, each side, that's where we'll touch our taco neck. So now I'm going to do this the repeat of this other first part. So we'll chain 5 so that we can have the same stitches as what we left on this other first part. So you're going to turn your work and work for my side. This will be half double crochets, because now I'm going on a half double crochet row. So that's why I added 2 more stitches. So skip those 2 stitches, and in the third chain make a half double crochet, and you are going to make 5 half double crochets. So now we are going to continue with our usual pattern. Just in the back loop, make half double crochets until you get to the bottom. Okay, so I'll work half double crochets until I get to the bottom. Once I'm at the bottom, I'll work single crochets for the ribbing, chain 1, go back up with a slip stitch, 12 slip stitches, and then work single crochets. And I'm going to repeat this until I have a total of 6 inches. Okay, so it was 6 inches, 5 inches, and then 6 inches, just to make up a total of 17 inches. That was half of my hips measurements. So that will be the front panel. So I'm done with my 6 inches, and this is a total of 14 rows for this other side, and in total I have 17 inches. So they kind of look different from both sides. This is how it looks here. It is more, the ridges are more wider, and when you go to this other side, they're a bit more defined, and I want this to be my front part. So go and do the other panel, and I'll meet you once you have 2 panels similar. So I'm done with my 2 panels. This is how they look like, and I showed you the side I want to be the right side, and this other side is where I want to be the wrong side. So we're going to join these 2 at the shoulder part. So the wrong side is what I have outside. Okay, so just join them together like that, and you are going to use your yarn needle to sew them together. This will be where the shoulder part is, but I'm sewing this on the wrong side. So this is the part that I want to be inside when I turn the whole thing inside out. Okay, so do that, sew this part together like that. So this is where our shoulders will be. Yeah, so go ahead and finish that up, and I'll meet you once you're done. Do also the other side. Okay, you'll do the other side, and I'll see you once you're done with those 2 sides. Okay, I'm done, and this is how it looks like. And that's the right side. That is how it looks like on our shoulders. So yeah, we are going now to do this other side. So where I have the stitch marker, from the shoulder part right there to where I have the stitch marker is 25 stitches. So each side is 25 stitches. I counted 25 stitches, so now I have a total of 50 stitches for the armhole. So you're going to do the same, put a stitch marker on both ends, and we are going to sew together the rest of the bottom part, leaving the armholes, which is a total of 50 stitches. So 25 on one side and 25 on the other side. So still working from the wrong side, you get your yarn needle, and in that where you have your stitch marker, insert your yarn needle, and you are going to sew these parts together. Okay, the front panel and the back panel, that's how you join them, and we have left that armhole there, and we are going to sew all this all the way to the bottom. Well, I was done, and then I already did one of the sleeves, and yeah, so I'm going to show you how we get this sleeve done. So this is how it looks like. So yeah, okay, now you are going to reattach your yarn. I prefer and the underarm, that's where we reattach our yarn. And my last row here was a single crochet row, so we are going to do the double crochet row first. Okay, so reattach your yarn like that. And you're going to chain 2. So right in the back of, in that very first stitch, insert half double crochet. So we are working with half double crochets because our last row was a single crochet row. Okay, so go into the back loop and make a half double crochet row. And it's basically, because this is where we had our chain, it's kind of hard to, you know, get the back loop, but yeah. So you are going to insert a half double crochet in every stitch there. So you're going to repeat putting the half double crochet in every stitch, go around your armhole like that, and I will meet you once you get to the end of that row. Okay, so we are coming to the end of the row, and that is our last stitch. Okay, so you're going to close this off with a slip stitch that's on top of the first chain 2 that we had. Okay, like that. So you're going to chain 1, turn your work, and we are going to work on the row of single crochets. Okay, so in that very first stitch, insert a single crochet like that. In the next stitch, insert a single crochet. That is only in the back loop. We are still working only in the back loop. And you're going to insert single crochets in every stitch, and I'll meet you once you're at the end of the row. We are coming to the end of the row, and that is going to be my last stitch there. So there is this stitch where you see where we did our slip stitch there. It looks like there is a stitch right behind it, you see, but do not put any stitch in that one. Okay, so skip that and make a slip stitch on top of that single crochet. Okay, like that. So that's so you're going to chain 2, turn your work, and we are now going to work on a row of half double crochets. Okay, so you're going to yarn over, and in that very first stitch, insert a half double crochet. So you have 2 chains there, and in that very first stitch, insert a half double crochet. And you're going to work a row of half double crochets until the end. Okay, do that, and I'll see you at the end of this row just to show you one more time how to do it. Okay, so we're at the end, and you see that's my last stitch, and that looks like a stitch also, but that's where we did our slip stitch. Okay, you see that it looks like we have 2 stitches, but do a double crochet, a half double crochet in that very last one, and then skip that. You see where we did our slip stitch, do not put a stitch in that one. Okay, then otherwise you'll have an even number of stitches. So always skip that very last one, that that very last one where we did the slip stitch, or skip it. So then close that row off with a slip stitch like that. Okay, so yeah, that's how it looks. So next time when you're coming back on this row, you are going to skip that very last one, like I said, where we put a slip stitch right there. So when you come back on that row, you do not insert a stitch in there. So chain 1, turn your work, and you're going to work a row of single crochets. So in that very first stitch, insert a single crochet, and you are going to work single crochets for this row until you get to the end of the row. Once you get to the end of the row, remember not to put a stitch in that one with the slip stitch. Do not put a stitch in there. Okay, skip that, skip that, skip that. That will be your last stitch, no, and not the other one. Okay, so do that. Then you're going to repeat the rows. You're going to repeat the rows until you have enough to cover your, from your upper biceps to your arm wrist. As for me, I did a total of 35 rows. Okay, so I'll see you at the end. I'm done with my 35 rows, and that's how it looks like. Okay, so these were 35 rows, and my last row is a half double crochet row. So we are now going to work on the wrist. Okay, so you'll chain 1, turn your work, and we are going to skip that very first stitch. Okay, then go into the second stitch and make a single crochet like that. Then skip the next stitch and go into the stitch after that and make a single crochet. So we are reducing the arm size, the sleeve size. So skip that and go into the next and make a single crochet. Then skip the next stitch, and then go into that other one and make a single crochet. So for this row, you're going to be skipping one stitch in between. Okay, so work single crochets while skipping one, and I will see you once you're done. Okay, so I'm done with my row of single crochets. So I'm going to make a slip stitch to close this off. Then chain 1, turn your work, and we are going to work a row of slip stitches. Okay, so you're going to make a slip stitch in that very first stitch like that. Then for the next stitch, you are going to skip that, go into the next one and make a slip stitch. So we are going to do more reductions, but it's different. So go into the next and make a slip stitch. So there we did not skip. So the next one we are going to skip that, go into the next, make a slip stitch, and then go into the very next one without skipping and make a slip stitch. Okay, so now the next one is a skipping one. So you skip one and make a slip stitch into the next, and then don't skip the next one and make a slip stitch. I hope you get the pattern. So the next one you'll skip, okay, and then the next you don't skip, like that. So do that until you get to the end of that slip stitch row. So I'm now coming to the end, and you close this off with a slip stitch on top of that very first slip stitch. Okay, like that. So chain 1, and now we're going to turn your work, and now we're going to work a row of single crochets. Okay, so remember we are only working in the back loop. So go into the back loop and make a single crochet. And for this part we are not making any reductions, not skipping any stitch, just put a single crochet in every stitch. Okay, so go around, and once you get there, turn around and do slip stitches like that. And then my last row was a row of slip stitches. Okay, so that is how it looks. You can make it longer if you wish, but I wanted it that short. Okay, so go ahead and do the other sleeve, and then I'll come and we'll do that turtleneck. Okay, so to attach the turtleneck, you're going to reattach your yarn, and I prefer here where you have this seam of the shoulder part. Okay, so we are going to reattach the yarn like that, and then chain 26 stitches, chains, sorry. So you're going to chain 26 chains. Okay, those are my 26 chains, though you're going to skip that very first one and insert a single crochet in the next chain. So we're going to work a row of single crochets, and that will be a total of 25 single crochets. Okay, so work single crochets, and I will meet you once you get to the bottom of this row. So I'm at the bottom, and we are going to skip that very first stitch right there and get into the second one and make a slip stitch. Then go into the next stitch and make a slip stitch like that. So we have 2 slip stitches. Turn your work, and you are going to skip those 2 slip stitches that you just made. That's this one and that one, and make a single crochet in the back loop of that third stitch. So that's a single crochet in the back loop on top of that very last single crochet you made. Okay, and you're going to go down with a total of 25 single crochets. So that will be a total of 25 single crochets going down. That's for row 2. We are only working in the back loop. So for this turtleneck part, once you get to the top, you are going to insert a single crochet in that very last stitch, and we will be working only in the back loop for this part. Chain 1, turn your work, and in that very first stitch insert a single crochet. So we are only using single crochets in the back loop for this part. Okay, so do single crochets downwards until you have 25 of them, and I'll meet you down there. Okay, I'm coming to the end of that row, and that's my 24th stitch, and my 25th, that just hides down there, so you need to pick that up. Yeah, that will be the 25th single crochet. And yeah, so that was my last one. Okay, that was my last stitch where I attached last, so I skip that and go into, so I skip that one and go into the next and make a slip stitch, and then I go right into that next one. So this is where now we have the ridges, where we start to join the ridges, because the other part was for where we had the 5 stitches. Okay, so yeah, my last stitch is in that ridge. So I'm going to turn my work, skip those 2 slip stitches and make a single crochet, a single crochet on top of that very first last single crochet that we had. And I'm going to work 25 single crochets till the end. So once you get to the end, chain 1, do single crochets, and I'll meet you at the bottom. Okay, so I'm coming to the end of my last stitches, my 25th stitch. And once you're done with your single crochet, you are going to, skip that. Okay, so we have the high ridges there, and then we have the bottom ridges. So we're going to slip stitch that into the high ridge like that. Okay, so the high ridge, this is the high ridge, and that is the bottom ridge. Okay, that's what I'm calling them. I'm not sure how they call them. So we have the bottom, like a valley thing, and then we have the high ridge. Okay, that's at the back, but on this side. Okay, so you're going to to now slip stitch next in that low ridge, which like that. So you see that's the high ridge and that's the low ridge. Okay, then you're going to turn your work, skip those first 2 slip stitches, and make a single crochet on top of that very last single crochet that you made. Okay, and you're going to do single crochets in every stitch until you have a total of 25. Once you have 25, chain 1, turn your work, come back down here. Okay, so we're coming to the bottom again, and you have to get that last one like that, insert a single crochet in that very last one. So our last one was on the low ridge, and now we slip stitch on the high ridge. Okay, so in between there on the high ridge, you are going to make a slip stitch, then go into the low ridge area there and make a slip stitch. I don't know how they call them. If you know the name of this ribbed thing, then just let me know in the comments. So skip those 2 and make a single crochet in that very first back loop of the first last single crochet, sorry, and do the same until you have a total of 25 single crochets. So you will repeat that same pattern until you get to where you started from, that is around your neck area until the area where you started. Okay, okay, so always remember your last one is the low ridge, and then you slip stitch into the high ridge, then go into the low ridge again, and then now turn your work. Okay, so it's going to be like that, into the high ridge, low ridge, turn your work, go down, go upwards, then come down and slip stitch in the like that. Okay, so I did a total of 40 rows, and this is how it looks like. So we are going to sew this together. So you'll need your yarn needle, then cut a long tail of yarn like that, and then let's sew this together. So you are going to sew on the right side. We were working on the right side for this neck part. So yeah, this is the right side. Sew this together like this. Until the bottom, and I'll see you at the bottom. I'm done, and this is how it looks like. Yes, so you are going to go ahead and fold this, and yeah, we have our turtleneck sweater. Okay, so go ahead, sew in all the ends, clean it up, and yeah, this is how it looks like. So I hope you like it, guys. So thank you so much for watching this video. Thank you for subscribing. Give it a thumbs up if you found it helpful. And yeah, so yeah, if you haven't subscribed, please do so. And I'll see you in the next video. Bye.